Hi, I'm Redneck Computer Geek and welcome to part 3. We're going to get this assembled. Now, if you're looking this up, as far as the assembly here is concerned, reassembling it is pretty simple. You just drop this side of the axle in, then you drop in the two spider gears, put the bolt through, and then you put the other side of the axle on, and then you put in the Torx. In this case, I can't show you that because this is actually lockered from my part 2 of this video series. But with that being said, that's how you put this center piece together. Now we're going to throw the rest of it together. Now, what I would recommend doing is having this laid out and then lifting it up as straight as you can and setting it off to the side. That's going to make life a lot easier when you go to lay it in later. Okay, so if you saw my part 1 and you're careful, your brake is still in place. If not, you're going to have to take off these bolts and pop the brake assembly off in order to put this in. But before we go any further, what I would recommend doing is getting your ball bearing and detent in. So we're going to put a little anti-seize on it and put that spring down in the hole. And a little bit of anti-seize on the ball, and that'll hold it in place right on top of that spring. There we go. Now from here we can do this piece next. Now you need to keep in mind that the copper or brass on the ends, it is directional. And the other thing that you have to keep in mind is that these seals go all the way through. So you have to actually put RTV sealant into the groove. So now we take our side that goes to the brake and we slide it through the brake and then lay it down in. And our key on this side goes that direction, our key on this side goes that direction. Now, once you have it in place, you want to make sure that your shifter slides nice and easy back and forth. So right there, that would be neutral position. All the way over would be engagement on one side, and all the way over would be engagement on the other side. And right there would be neutral. So from here, we're going to put some anti-seize on the shifting knob area. That's going to set down in, rotate, and we're in neutral, so it's going to be the center line. Okay, so we've got our neutral center line, and from here we're going to lift in the rear axle. So that's why we had it spaced out earlier. So we're going to set it in, being careful not to mess up our rubber seals, and just kind of roll it towards you and down and in. And there we go. So at this point we should be in neutral and everything spins. Like so. Now, if you're setting up this axle, from this gear over, it's spacer, bearing, bearing, seal. From this gear over, it's spacer, shims, bearing, bearing, seal. Now, one thing to note is if you're shimming this axle, you shim it on this side. The reason being is because the tolerance from this side to the outside of where the bull gear sits is closer on this side than it is on that side. So if you're shimming it, you shim that direction. From here, we're going to apply the sealant all the way around, and then we're going to set the cover on, and we're going to start with a crisscross pattern going back and forth, putting in the bolts, and do not tighten all of them until you get all of the bolts in. Alright, so let's try that again. Apparently I didn't quite get the keyway in right. There we go. Much happier. So what happened there was that the two gears that sit right here, one of them had pressed in and it was locking it up. So now it sits in nice. We should be good to go. And now we're just going to go around in a circle and tighten her up. Now, just a couple of, nothing too major. Try and do an alternating circle if you can. And your outside. And test your input, neutral, turn it so it locks into gear, axle turns, neutral again, and push it in, turning the axle, and other gear, and back to neutral, and there you have it, all put back together, ready to go in the vehicle.